been for 10, 15 years atheist. And I was empty vessel. I had no grasp of my own life anymore. And I had to start to learn to live in a place where God was at home and I was the visitor. After my mother died, I realized that the one who gave me life was gone.
How do you discern between his voice and the Lord's voice, especially when you're constantly in a state of silence?
So Mary came forward from the icon. She emerged from the icon. The icon remained fixed on the wall, but her trunk, the first part of her body, leant forward out of the icon and looked down at me and she said, I will be your mother. You have to be
Sorry,
careful.
Father, when you say Satan pushed you, you physically felt being pushed?
How do you begin to define what purpose in life even means?
La, you don't ask such a question, there's no meaning. But I will never go back. I've come to God and I'm living with God and that's it.
Welcome everyone. We're so excited today because we have once again Father Lazarus El Antony. We are in Egypt in the valley of Natron. He's a very, very special guest. We haven't seen him since a long time on YouTube, on all these podcasts. So it is such a huge blessing to have you, Father. Welcome.
Yeah, Father.
Father Anthony.
Good to see you, Father.
Yeah, always lovely to see you.
It was good to be with you.
So Father, we have your story in many different videos online, but if you can summarize it for us in about 5 minutes to start for the audience that is getting to be introduced to you, and then we can move on with the rest of it.
Father, I think the most important features are three. One is that I was, for many years, not a Christian. I was an atheist. I was extremely articulate as an atheist. I was arguing constantly with my students. I was teaching in the university, lecturing English and philosophy, and I was presenting a case for a direct, self-directed life without any reference to any authority at all. And this ties into another part of my life, which was political. I was a Marxist. I was a member of the Fourth International Working Men's Association. This was a continuation of the communism of Lenin, which lasted through Stalinism into Trotskyism, and it was a political commitment that took over my whole intellectual life. And then finally, it was a very personal thing. My mother died of cancer very painfully. And out of these three things, the sort of emotional hatred of God, that he put himself up as an authority over me when I can manage my own life, thank you very much. I don't need to be told what to do. So I had this rebellious attitude to God. And in fact, I was an atheist. I didn't believe he existed, so I was arguing that way. And secondly, that I was looking to another answer for life, another answer to the meaning of life. That human life is perfectible, that it can be made perfect. So if Jesus is telling people that he can make life perfect, if we give ourselves to him, I was saying, well, like Marx and communism generally, we believe that socialism marches forward to a perfected society. And these two kind of work together to make me an aggressive anti-Christian. Then one single fact of my life, my mother's death, just cut the ground from under my feet. I was no longer secure. I could talk, I could argue, I could do things in the world, but I had no grasp of my own life anymore. After my mother died, I realized that the one who gave me life is gone. And where is the force for my life to come from now without a mother? And this was something horrifying to me. So way before, long before I came to understand that I needed Jesus in my life, I understood that I needed a mother. I needed another mother, second mother. And one was available. God gave me a second mother. I went to a Serbian monastery in Ballarat, in Australia, in Victoria, Kira. And there they have a wonderful icon of St. Mary. It's called the three-handed icon. She has two hands with which she holds Jesus, and there is a third hand painted on her body. This third hand was painted because St. John Damascene, the Greek writer who defended icons against iconoclasm, he was caught painting icons, and his hand was cut by the iconoclasts, and he was left to manage. And he prayed that night and fell asleep, and when he woke up, his hand was re-knit. St. Mary had performed this miracle for him. So whenever you see this three-handed icon, St. Mary has two hands holding Jesus and a third hand. This is the third hand that St. Mary gave to John Damascene. So when I saw this icon, it was at a moment of particular emotional distress for me. I was mourning my mother. I was unsure of how I can sustain my life, how I can hold myself up. By what force or what power do I exist? See, when you are a Christian, now we are Christians, we are conscious that God is the power. God holds us up, right? But without God, when you have no God in your life, when you don't know God, you don't know Jesus, you don't know any force outside yourself, everything devolves on you. It's all on you. You have to do it. And I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't manage it. I needed someone to help me, someone to hold me, someone to hold me physically, to comfort me. And I didn't have. And I was in distress. Then when I finally came to this icon, in front of this icon in the Serbian monastery, St. Mary was on the wall, and I approached the icon, as I saw the others doing. And all of them made a metania, they bowed down, made a prostration in front of the icon. And I thought, well, I should do the same. Since I'm here, I should do what they do. And so I made a prostration in front of the icon. And I start to cry. I start to void my feelings, to give out my feelings about needing someone to help me, someone to hold me, someone to be with me. And how I'd lost my mother, I had no more mother. I was just vocalizing these things in my mind. And I started to cry. So I stood up. I was supposed to do 3 metanias. I did the second metania, and I heard a voice saying, "I will be your mother." And I thought it was one of the ladies from the church who was heard me, saw me in distress and come to give me comfort. There was nobody there. And then I made the third metania, and again I heard the voice. The voice said, "I will be your mother." So at this point, I thought, hang on, I'm hearing the voice in front of me. But I'm looking behind me, I'm thinking that there's someone behind me, but no, there must be someone in front of me. If the voice is coming to me in front of me, why would I look behind me? So I looked up. And that day, St. Mary came forward from the icon. She emerged from the icon. The icon remained fixed on the wall. But her trunk, the first part of her body, leant forward out of the icon and looked down at me, and she said, "I will be your mother." From that moment, all my pain, all my anxiety, all my mourning, my grief, everything disappeared. I was calm. I was happy. I was in love. I was looking at her. I was feeling I have someone. Then of course she started to send light out from her face. The light kind of covered me, and then she disappeared. The icon was remaining, of course, on the wall. So my life has been turned around by this vision, this apparition, which St. Mary gave to me, and since that day she has never left me. I've had I could tell you many stories, we don't have time today, but there are many stories of times when she has helped me, of times when she has come to me when I needed her. And this was God's wisdom, that he could not catch me by argument. God could not catch me by sending someone to discuss with me theology, or someone to tell me, look, Jesus did it, the Bible is true because of this and this. that wouldn't impress me. What I needed was love. And the only person who could give me the love was St. Mary. And God sent her to give me the love that I needed. After that, he worked with me. From the time that I knew St. Mary till the time I come to accept Jesus, this was a long period. But God was working inside me to prepare me to accept Jesus. So I think it's a life-changing event that I'm talking about. St. Paul had his on the Damascus Road when God knocked him from his horse and spoke to him. So not all Orthodox people have it because they are born Orthodox. Yeah. And they grow up in the cradle of the church. So they have fathers, they have monks and nuns around them, they have saints' stories. They have a whole wealth of Christian reality around them. But I didn't have it. Mm-hmm. I'd been for 10, 15 years atheist. And I was empty vessel. And it was only then that St. Mary could fill me up with her love. And that prepared me to accept the love of Christ, ultimately.
So, Father, how did you go from there to become a monk and to live in a cave?
This was... I didn't want to leave the monastery where I'd seen St. Mary. And so I just resigned my university position. I resigned gave away my car, I just left everything. Like Matthew leaving the tax collector's booth, or the Samaritan leaving her water jar. I just left it, and I stayed there in the monastery. And the bishop, he soon realized that I wasn't not only not Orthodox, but I wasn't even Christian. So he said to me, well, you better go and learn what's it about and come back. And so I went to Mount Athos in Greece, and I stayed there for 2 years. And I learned a lot there. And finally I went back to the Serbian monastery, only to find that it was very crowded. It was a Serbian center as much as a monastery. And some young Egyptians came to visit the monastery because it was well known. And I was that day alone in the monastery guarding the place because the others had gone now. And I said to them, you're Greek. They looked like Greek. They said, no, we're Egyptian. I said, what, you're Muslim? They said, no, we're Coptic Christian. Coptic Christian? I don't know anything about Coptic Christian. I was in the Serbian church, Eastern Orthodox, not Oriental Orthodox. I never heard of it. I think in one story on Sherlock Holmes, there's a mention of some Coptic patriarch or something. It's a weird. This was the only knowledge I had of Coptic.
Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah. So finally, they sat down with me, and one of the girls did. The other girl and the boy were engaged, so they went for a walk. But the other girl sat with me, and she told me all about St. Anthony, told me about the monastery, told me about the desert. She basically gave me a 5-minute introduction to the whole history of monasticism. And I was captivated. She told me how, God said to Abraham, get up and go from your father's house and go to a land I will show you. So she said, get up and go from here and go to Egypt. So she pointed out to me any number of places where the Bible has someone doing something that leads toward like monasticism, like John the Baptist. From the day that he was weaned, he went into the desert and he stayed. So everything that she pointed out was pointing me in the direction of the desert. And then she said, look, Pope Shenouda will come to Australia, you can ask him and you can go to the desert of St. Anthony. So God used that girl to like a signpost to push me, to direct me on the way to St. Anthony. And of course, when I got here, I find the huge Coptic church edifice, the hierarchy, the whole business, and all I wanted was to go to the desert. So I finally, after staying here with the Pope for some months, finally got his permission to go to the desert. Once I arrived there, it was another story. It was like I'd been lifted out of this world into another world completely. the mountain. You've seen it, right? You've seen the mountain.
Yes, of course.
The cave at the top of the mountain, and the whole mountain comes down, and then there's the wadi, the monastery, and the wadi. It's exactly the same structure as St. Catherine's. You have the Gebel Musa, you have the mountain of, then you have the St. Catherine Monastery, and then you have the Horeb, the desert where Moses led the people. So the shape of it is the same. And I realized that I was in a place. You know how God said to Moses, "Take off your shoes, this is holy ground." Mm-hmm. I felt that when I walked onto the mountain. First I climbed to the cave of St. Anthony. I felt that I had stepped on holy ground, that I was not in a place which is normal. This is not a normal earthly situation. This is something other. Yeah. And I had to start to learn to live in a place where God was at home and I was the visitor. I mean, normally we say, God, come to me, come and visit me. But no, God was saying, you come and visit me, and he come into my home. And St. Anthony gave me a home. I've lived there now 28 years in that cave, and it's been a radical reorienting of reality for me. Reality is different. When I'm talking to you now here, this is not my reality. After I leave you, I'll go back there. I'll forget all of this. I have what I call a rock of forgetting. When I leave the monastery and I start to walk up to my cave, there's one big rock. It's a huge, like a boulder. And I painted a red cross on it. So when I leave the monastery and I walk up to the mountain, I put my hand on this red cross and I empty my mind of everything onto that rock. And when I leave that rock and I go to my cave, I don't remember anything. I'm empty. I'm just ready for prayer. When I come down from the cave to go to the monastery, say on Sundays for Mass, when I come to the rock, I put my hand on the cross and I take back all my worldly wisdom, and I go to the monastery and I'm able to relate again. But for the time that I'm in the cave, that person that is socially alive is not alive, not present. What is present is only the prayer, the praying monk. I mean, that's it. That's a kind of emptiness which is full of prayer. So it was a conspiracy. St. Mary and St. Anthony conspired with God to get me.
And they got you.
Got me.
And they got you.
They got you good, yeah.
Father, you spoke about the praying monk. Many people really don't understand what prayer is and the transformative power of prayer. Is that something that maybe you can unpack for us and how it really transforms the landscape of relationship with God?
Well, it starts with words, of course, right? You have to start praying with words. We need this, like babies say, Baba, Mama, Kira. We all start with words, but words are not really, they're going to get you very far, right? Psalms are good. Psalms we use them in the church all the time to codify our thoughts. Okay? But once you start to live a solitary life dedicated to prayer, you need to accept that the words are only the introduction. And the Psalms particularly are a lot of words. So you need to reduce the number of words to start with. And that's why we use the Jesus prayer. St. Paul said, I would rather pray 5 words with my understanding than hundreds of words without understanding. And what are the 5 words? Kyrie Isu Christe eleison me. The Jesus prayer in Greek. So the Jesus prayer is something that immediately limits the flood of words that you pray. Right? We speak too much when we are full of all the experiences around us, all the things that are pressing on our lives. We tend to go over and over everything. But if you calm down, if you bring it right down to the basic, you are there, I'm here. I need you. If you make it an act of communication which is almost wordless, but by your the energy of your heart, by the energy of your mind and your spirit. You're starting to communicate in God's way. Right? So when the monk starts to pray, when I start to pray, for example, with the Jesus prayer, the first half an hour, Messalin, is vocal, with voice. Then it calms down and becomes a whisper and stops. And then the voice moves inside me. The prayer repeats inside me for an hour or more. And then start to come out again, and the words start to come again. The way of the pilgrim, the Russian pilgrim, his instruction to me, that book was the first real education I had in prayer. It was perfect for me, because it told me how I can institute a way of living, a way of being that's based on prayer, but is without the need of society. So I think, first of all, for serious spiritual prayer, we need to reduce the number of words, right? Reduce it down to something manageable, so that you can allow your spiritual feelings to emerge. I recommend the Jesus prayer, but it can be anything. I knew one father, he was given the job of recording the monastery's history, like the events of the day. Each week he had to write it. And every time he came to a full stop, he said, Jesus and Mary. So he would write in, Dum, Jesus and Mary. Dum, Jesus and Mary. And when you meet him, he just says to you, oh, Jesus and Mary. He keeps on repeating this over and over. There was another monk, he was German actually, and he came to Mount Athos to be a monk there. And he didn't know Greek, nor did I. Foreigners don't always know Greek when they come, they learn it, but he was taught to pray the Jesus prayer. So it goes, Kyrie Jesu Christe eleison me. So when you saw him coming, all you could hear was, so it was called snake, because he was always making, Kyrie Jesu Christe eleison me. So he would say it under his breath, but you would just hear, so, but he was praying. Any method you use to show God that you're present, to offer yourself as being present to God and able and ready to hear, to listen. This, when we have a conversation, we sit down and we start to listen to each other and we start to talk. So the idea of being present with God means that you open yourself to God as a vessel that he can fill it. But if people talk too much, when are they going to listen? Yeah, you can talk to get it off your chest, so to speak. But there has to come a point when you stop talking and start listening. And at that moment, your prayer becomes effective. And so I would strongly advise people to, driving or wake up an extra half an hour early or something, but try and find some time just to listen. Like what does it, in the Bible we have the story of Samuel, right? Little Samuel, God chooses him. He says to him, Samuel. And Samuel thinks it's his old man, the priest Eli. And he runs off to him and he says, you called me. I didn't call you, go back to bed. Remember, this happens 3 times, and then he says to him, look, the next time he calls you, tell him, speak, Lord, your servant heareth. See, this is a good one. Lay in bed before sleep and just say, speak, Lord, your servant heareth. And wait. Okay, maybe 9 times out of 10, nothing will happen. But the 10th time, God will move inside you. God will move your spirit. He will awaken you. So I think it's important to enhance prayer by silence. The best prayer is that which is not spoken but felt, offered. You are an ear that is ready to hear, and you are a heart that is ready to accept. More than you are a mouth ready to speak.
So, Father, I'm about to ask you a question. I can see the answer through the joy on your face, but the audience will not be able potentially to see this, so I'm still going to ask it. You've been living in the cave for about 26 years with so little. You barely have anything, right? How can you find joy without anything?
You see, this is like a myth that we need things to support our life. Freud calls them auxiliary constructions, things that are auxiliary, that are helping to our life. We construct many things like this. Houses, cars, clothes, even friendships. We build things around us to help us, to hide us from ourselves. Now, when I live in the cave, there's nothing. There's no TV, there's no electricity, there's nothing. So what is my construction? What helps me to manage? Only Jesus, only God. And how? By his presence. Now this is something, it's a word I can say easily, but what does it mean? It means that the air is full of, it's pregnant. The air is, it's warm and it moves. And when I come outside my cave and I stand outside and I look to the sky and I look to the wadi, I feel that it's full. The earth is full, it's alive. But there's nothing there. There's no trees, there's nothing, it's just rocks. You've seen it, it's just, there's an empty desert. There's nothing there. But I feel someone is there. Some spirit is present, some power, some energy is present. When I go into my cave, I have no electricity, so unless I light a candle, there's no light. And when I close the door of the cave, I put a door on the cave. When I close it, and I sit inside, it's pitch dark, black. And the Greeks call it apophatic. That is the prayer of darkness, the sight that you have in the dark. And this is what makes prayer rise up. When you are in the darkness and the empty in yourself, then God comes. God's power emerges. And you feel strong. You feel energy. Because he's there. I mean, you can go to a church, you can see icons on the wall, you can see statues, you can imagine, but imagination is not presence. Imagination is not presence. Presence is something that fills. Like, I'll tell you, I was sitting on my mastaba. You know what is a mastaba? It's a kind of a bench. And I was sitting on it outside praying. And I was praying for St. Mary to tell her how much I love her. And suddenly, I felt that someone was sitting next to me. Now, if I come and sit next to you, if I come and sit here, you're going to feel that you're no longer alone. If there's something has come into your presence. So I felt that St. Mary had come and sat beside me. And it lasted for about half an hour. And she went away. So I didn't see her at that time. But she came and she stayed with me while I prayed and she went away. Now that's presence. That's something that you feel has happened, but you don't have evidence for it. It's not material. It's an event that is interior, spiritual. So this happens many times in the mountain. God's presence, God's Holy Spirit, the saints, the saints who have passed over but who remain alive in spirit, they visit. When I prayed one Mass in the cave, I took 5 boys with me, okay? And they're all dressed in white, right, as deacons. And I prayed the liturgy, so I started to say, let us pray. And then halfway through the liturgy, there's another time when I have to say, let us pray. And I turned to say, peace be with you. And when I turned to say, peace be with you, there were 20 figures in white. The 5 boys I brought with me, but the other 15 were spiritual monks who had come to just stay with the prayer for a while. Of course, when I turned back, I didn't see them anymore, but for that moment, heaven opened my eyes to see. Remember Balaam's ass? The donkey saw Archangel Michael, but Balaam couldn't see it. So
did you ever, were these like angels or they're people?
No, they were Sawah, they were spirit-born.
Okay, so anchorites.
Anchorites,
okay,
yeah.
Spirit-born,
yeah.
okay. Thank you.
And I'm sure that this happens so many times in the mountain, that spiritual life happens, and I don't need anything. I don't need TV. I don't need anything to support me, to make my life active. I am active in my spirit. And this is what God promises. I will be with you to the end of the world. And I will knock on the door, invite me in, and I will come and sup with you. So if you give up supporting yourself, God will then step in and support you. This is, he promises this. He will never leave you without what you need to manage.
Father, I think one of the scariest thing in what it is that you're describing is that for those of us who surround ourselves with material things, they serve as wonderful distractions, so I don't have to deal with what's inside me.
Exactly.
You were talking about silence earlier. That's part of what makes silence so scary for people. They don't want to face silence because silence brings out the noise that's within.
Yeah. Well, silence is an invitation to the devil as much as it is an invitation to God. When you are silent, you make a space for Satan to come. All right? Now, when he suggests to you things that are improper or damaging, dangerous for you, you don't accept. There's a famous story, I'm not sure who it's from. I've heard it said of Buddha, but I've heard it said of others as well. You allow the birds to fly over your head, but you don't allow them to build a nest on your head. So this is one of the things that I think is important for Christian prayer. Okay, Satan will suggest thoughts to you. They will come. In the silence that you set up for yourself to hear God, Satan will try to speak. But don't let him build a nest on you. Don't let him build a nest in your heart. Don't let him take over. Okay, it's nearly impossible to resist the possibility of Satan's entrance. He will talk. He will make a suggestion to you. Makes it to me. I mean, I've been there 28 years and he's still talking to me. But I never allow him to have his answer of the last say. He has to give way to my communication with God. Remember, there's a story about Piedmont when he was dying. And he'd been a great father to all the monks, and he was dying. And they came and stood around him and they said, "Father, you must know so much wisdom." And then Satan came and said, "You don't know anything. Look, you've been talking to me. You've been with my power all these years." And Piedmont wanted to look and answer him. And then Piedmont said to himself, "What am I doing? At the last moment of my life, I'm looking at Satan." And he turned away and he looked to the Christ icon, and Satan disappeared. So if you don't pay attention to Satan, if you don't give him what he craves attention, right? He craves your acceptance. He wants you to accept him. Satan is hungry for acceptance. He wanted to be with God. He wanted to be God. He wanted to replace him, or at least to be equal. And of course God sent Archangel Michael to cast him down. But from that time on, Satan he has a huge chip on his shoulder, inferiority complex. He wants us to recognize him. Recognize me. I am Satan. I am Lucifer. If you do recognize him, okay, you're lost. But if you ignore him, you just turn away, he's got nothing. He's got nothing left.
Yeah.
You are the one you are the winner. You are the one carrying the day when you turn to Christ.
How do you discern between his voice and the Lord's voice, especially when you're constantly in a state of silence?
Sorry?
When you're constantly in a state of silence, how are you discerning when it's God's voice and not your own insecurities or fears?
Because what I was saying, sometimes for people who are in a dilemma, who have a decision to make, they need to pray and they need to know God's will, right? So they need to find out what signs God will use to convince them that it's his way and not Satan's way. So you need to read the signs. Like as I said before, if God opens a way for something to happen, to take place, then the open door is really an invitation from God. But a closed door or a difficulty is more or less certain to be a no. Now, this is not quite what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about now is something different. In the silence of prayer, you don't hear God telling you in words what you've just told him in words. He doesn't answer you like question and answer like we're doing now. Not quite like that, no. When I pray, your spirit becomes open inside your body and even outside. As Paul said. Paul said, I know a man who went to the third heaven, I don't know, in the body or out of the body. He's talking about himself, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this happened to me once. I was praying the Jesus prayer, and I'm sitting on the floor, because I always sit on, because I can't stand up in my cave, it's too small. So I was sitting on the floor, and I was praying with my prayer rope. And I was praying through this long hour of silent prayer, which I told you I stopped the words after 20 minutes. So a long period I prayed without words, just in my heart. And I saw myself on the floor praying, as if I'm sitting outside myself, and myself is there, my body is there on the floor, but I'm not there. I'm outside it. It was an example of this kinetic energy, this movement of the spirit that makes you understand things, see things, feel things without being determined by the body. So if you sit still, very quietly, very still, and you don't use or need anything physical to support your condition, and you meditate on God, you meditate on the name, for example, on Jesus. For example, Kyrie Jesu Christi, Lord Jesus Christ. So you meditate on it, like Lord. What is Lord? Lord is the one who is overall, who is in control. Pilate was called Lord. So the high priest was called Lord. So this is an authority figure, right? Jesus. Where does the name Jesus come from? Archangel Gabriel told to Mary, you call his name Jesus. Means Savior, right? Mm-hmm. Christ, what is Christ? Christus, the anointing, the anointed one. David said, I will not raise my hand against God's anointed. He wouldn't kill Saul. So you think about the meanings of the words interiorly. You think inside yourself what these words mean. And they start to fill you up so that you don't need anything else. Lord Jesus Christ, he fills you. And your mind becomes like vacant. It's a function of silence. Silence speech does things, right? Speech has its point. It has its direction. It determines things. Speech determines your reality. But silence, no. Silence allows you to feel reality, feel itself. And that reality is God.
So, Father, you speak very beautifully about being in the presence of God while you are in solitude. But do you sometimes feel lonely? Or do you sometimes feel lonely? Or are you fought with loneliness? Or at least in the process of getting there? I'm sure you've experienced that here and there.
This is a sweet one. Loneliness and solitude are not the same thing at all, right? Loneliness is a speech, right? Loneliness means you want someone or something. You are not complete yet. Loneliness means I'm missing something. Something is lacking in me. I want a companion, I want a dog, I want something. Solitude is the opposite. Solitude means you have everything. You have too much. You have yourself, and you have God with you, filling you up. Loneliness, I've never been lonely. Because, not since I became a monk, because I don't want, need, or desire, or I can't use anyone. Like, if I was a monk in a community, you need the monks, the other monks in the community to sing, to chant, to pray, to work, to be. There is a community of monks. This is Pachomian monasticism. This is Cenobitic monasticism. But the kind of monasticism that I belong with, share with, the solitary monasticism, this is without the necessity for human companionship, because God has overruled it. God has overwhelmed it. The plenitude, the fullness of God, His Spirit, Jesus, His love, or St. Mary's presence next to me. This is something that makes me far away from any need for another human being. Now, this is not something that we can offer to everybody as a general recipe, right? No, people need people, and that's okay. But when you're talking about the army of monks who are living in solitude, they are not lonely. They are fulfilled by presence of God. So solitude is a richness, a fullness. It's a complete state of being, whereas loneliness is an empty, half fulfilled, unfulfilled state of being. So to be unfulfilled, you're lonely. To be fulfilled, over-fulfilled, you're in solitude. You're with God.
So this fulfillment that you speak of, Father, it's oftentimes tagged also to this idea that we hear a lot about, where everybody's trying to tell me what my purpose in life is. Yeah. My purpose is to be an engineer, a doctor, a teacher, a mother, a wife, a husband.
Yeah.
When you are completely fulfilled, how do you begin to define what purpose in life even means, especially in light of...
You don't ask such a question. There's no meaning. When I'm in my cave, the meaning of my life is already this moment. As I told you before, every day, every hour, every minute is now. There is no before or after. With a monk, there is only now. Every day, I'm in now. My life doesn't have a past and doesn't have a future. I will not be different in 10 years as I am from what I am now. My life is now. That is, my life is my prayer, my sharing with Christ, with God, and with St. Mary. This is my life. This is my purpose. There is no... See, that's why they can't be the same thing, right? The life of someone who lives in the world cannot be the same as the life of someone who lives in solitude, because in the world you have past, present, and future. You have to do, to not do, everything. But a monk has nothing. We call it empty slate. It's just everything cleared off. The only thing present is your awareness of God's presence. That's it. So, certain questions, certain necessary problems for people which need solution, you can give them. Me? No. I have already passed beyond those problems and those solutions. By leaving the world, by going into the desert, by living in the cave, I have gone beyond a certain state of incorporation, being incorporated in the world. I'm outside of it. But when you're inside it, you need keys to unlock all sorts of doors. And that, you must work on that. But if anyone tries less than for a month, for a week, if someone takes a leave of absence and goes off to the beach or something, to hire a shack or something, stay by the beach, you could recreate it. You could make some kind of attempt at solitude, at peacefulness, as being meditating. You could use some kind of technique to calm yourself down and so on and so on. But you're going to go back. But I will never go back. You understand? I've come to God and I'm living with God, and that's it. The only stage is just my translation to heaven. That's all that's got to happen. But I'm already there by my heart.
Yeah.
I don't have nothing else to do.
Yeah.
So, Father, are there any experiences or life events that you feel really shaped you more than others, or any, I don't know, experiences, generally speaking, that you would like to share with the audience?
Well, I think certainly the life-changing event for me was St. Mary's appeal, her appearance before me, her promise to be my mother. This was life-changing. I must use that phrase. Right? So nothing comes close to that in my whole 74 years. But in terms of awakening my understanding, some things stand out. For example, when I was in Mount Athos, or when I was in Serbia, the head of the Serbian monastery in Mount Athos, Bunapaisius, his family, his entire family from the village where he grew up, were wiped out during the war. 16 members of his family and the neighbors were slaughtered. The man was completely broken. Now he came back to Serbia, to the monastery called Dečani. It's a big Serbian monastery. He arrived late at night. They had told Patriarch Pavli that Abuna would be arriving. And Patriarch Pavli came by special car. He never traveled by car normally, but this night he did. He arrived. Abuna Paisius had just arrived. And they led Abuna Paisius he was crying. They led him to the church. It was freezing cold, it was winter. Patriarch Pavli came down from the car, he went straight to the church. He held Father Paisius' hand and they sat on the floor for hours. Patriarch Pavli just held him in his arms. Let him cry, let him shout, let him speak. He just held on to him. Hour after hour, till the morning liturgy. I've never seen such love as that. That was a self-sacrifice, Christ-like. That affected me more than I can. That was years ago, and still affects me. Unbelievable. That Patriarch Pavli was a saint. I didn't know Pope Carlos, but I think these few spirits, like we have in Orthodoxy, they are. Father Paisius, who passed away, the Mount Athos monk, he was also one of these great souls. But I particularly remember Patriarch Pavli because of the action that I saw take place, where he was curing that broken man. So, yeah, there are some events that have happened which have shown me that the love of God can move people to extraordinary heights. I had a terrible experience too in the mountain when Satan appeared and pushed me physically away so that I fell down and broke my jaw and my wrist and my knee. It was terrible. So that was a bad fall. Spiritual fall. I mean, I healed the body, but I wasn't successful enough to stand up to him. So that was the only occasion when he's overwhelmed me physically. But I suppose there are a few things like this that show God can work in the world through people. He can work through love and through concern and care. And Satan can work. So we have to be careful.
Father, when you say Satan pushed you, you physically felt being pushed?
I was going up. To go to my cave, I had to climb up a little hill. And the face of the mountain, do you remember outside the cave of St. Anthony? The face of the mountain is sheer like that. It's a straight face. And I was climbing up to go to my cave. And just as I approached this sheer face of the mountain, there's a small path that you go along to my cave. Satan moved forward from the face of the mountain as a huge kind of bear and physically approached me. I saw this figure approaching me. And I stepped back. And then he came closer. So I stepped back. And then I fell. Because he came so close to me, as I stepped back, I lost my footing and fell. So that was a physical attack, which physically damaged me. But on the other hand, to finish the story, When I came back from hospital 3 months later, the bishop asked me to stay in the monastery. He said, take a rest. I said, no, I want to go back to my cave to show that I'm still... As I came to the path, I told you the rock of forgetting, which I always use. I stopped there and I said to St. Anthony, please, if you want me to return to this life, you have to do something. I'm weak, I'm broken. My leg is still not good, my wrist is still painful, my jaw is not really right. I need help. And I started to walk, continue on my path. At first slowly. And then I forgot. As I told you, I leave aside my mind. And I start to sprint and run. I arrived at my cave in perfect condition. Wow. How was that happen? Just came from the hospital. And I arrived to the cave, healed. So yeah, things happen that show God's mercy and God's love and God's grace. And,
yeah. I really don't know how to move on from that story.
Well, I think it would be good to invite Father if the audience that is going to listen in on this is, some of them might be discerning monasticism, others it's not going to be their calling at all. But all of them are called to some form of spiritual offering. All of them are called to some sort of spiritual walk. Yeah. If you could leave them with a word for them to be able to pursue with honesty and integrity.
Certainly. The presence of God, the presence of Christ, is not something that reserved for hermits. It's not a privileged position. It is available to everyone, right? Now, there is an old saying by, I think it was St. John of Damascus that I mentioned before, that icons, we don't worship icons. Icons are a window to heaven. We look through the icon to heaven, right? Now, I would suggest that anybody watching this or listening to me talk now, that they can find an icon that speaks to them. Find an icon that they relate to. Like you find a photograph of someone, they're wonderful. So find an icon that you like, of Jesus or Mary or any saint. Keep that icon with you. Keep it, a bigger one in your house and a small one in your pocket. And always look at it. When you're driving, when you're anywhere, if you feel bad, if you feel stressed and strained, just take it out, look at it, and say, help me. Just ask. And if you look with your eyes and you touch it, and you open your mind and your heart, you will be heard, you will be helped. So God's presence, God's help is available to everyone, even at the most simple level of asking Him to help me, I need help. This means that the icon provides of contacting heaven is real. When you look at the icon, you will be looking to heaven. You won't see heaven, but you will see through the icon that there is someone there. And this person will help you, be it Jesus or Mary or whoever. But you can get help. My favorite icon, of course, is the one from St. Catherine, where you see Jesus' face and his smile is kind of half and half, because he's half smiling to love you and half frowning to judge you. So it's kind of, I like it so much, because he's like saying, I want to be good for you, but you have to listen, you have to do what I say. So, I think as Orthodox, and since this is an Orthodox conversation, I think certainly the icon and the Holy Communion are the two options we have to touch Jesus, to become close to Him, even in the midst of busy life, even in the midst of all kinds of stresses and strains. And it doesn't need 28 years for someone to find help from an icon. It can happen like that. So
Thank you, Father, for this beautiful advice. And I just want to conclude with something very important. I think that the audience needs to understand, because they might be wondering, why is it that we're recording this here in the Valley of Natron when Your Reverence lives in a cave in St. Antony's Monastery in the Red Sea, Egypt? And this is the beauty of Orthodoxy, that although Father Lazarus has been in the cave for 26 years, has recounted all of these beautiful stories, but he himself is here because his spiritual guide is here. So he's coming to see his spiritual father, even after all of this, the stories that you listen to, right?
That's
so
right.
the spirit of discipleship and humility is still there within you, and this is the true beauty of Orthodoxy. Thank you so much, Father. This was huge.
You're welcome.
We love you so much, Father. Thank you.
It was lovely, and we love you so much. We're so blessed to have met you today. Father Anthony, any last
God bless you,
words?
mission.
No. It's an incredible blessing, and we're so thankful that God would speak to us through these lovely fathers. You're a great blessing to us into the church, Father. Thank you.
God bless.